So, hello everyone. Thank you so much for joining here in person, and thank you so much for joining online. I am very humble and gratitude to this space that we are allowed to present here the new, only founded officially 2 weeks ago, European Alliance for Regenerative Agriculture. It's independent and farmer-led organization for the change in our agriculture, in our agri-food systems, and towards hopefully a regenerative future for all beings on this planet. And if we are going to the next slide, I will run you quickly through the agenda we have for the next 40-50 minutes, and hopefully a lively discussion if you all like. So first we have 6 amazing farmers joining. So very special about this European Alliance for Regenerative Agriculture is that the farmers who founded it and who are leading it come from the whole diversity of agriculture. So we have big crop farmers who identify as practicing regenerative agriculture. We have farmers of the organic legacies whose parents were the first among the organic farmers. We have smallholder CSA, Nordic market garden farmers, and of course we have great farmers practicing holistic grazing and others who do all combined. And we have 6 stories of them personally. They will present themselves, their farmer story, their journey, their place to you. And then they will also tell you about why they believe this new era is necessary, who is in it, why and how, and what EARA will do. And then we will present our first political intervention, so to say, which is our white paper. And then we want to guide decision makers in the public and private sphere with the thinking of the regeneration practitioners on the ground. So really we believe the farmers who are still acting daily with ecological and social systems are the ones who have the most advanced thinking and living practice, which we should transfer as quickly as possible to decision makers, which are usually in front of their computer all day, etc., where we really can guide the thinking. And then we will hopefully have a lively question and answers and discussion session. And with that already, I would give the word to Sheila, our first farmer, amazing young farmer from Greece. And Sheila will talk to you now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Simon, for giving me the word and for this nice introduction. I'm actually very happy to share with everybody who is joining us online or on the place. So here in the background you can actually see my farm. Maybe you can even hear some of the many birds that you hear here every morning and every afternoon. But actually, I was so lucky to inherit a farm that was actually one of the first organic farms in Greece. So it's already 35 years or a bit more organically managed, and which actually transitioned in 2015 into agroforestry. And the nice thing is that it kind of happened by itself. We grafted a lot of the mature trees, the mature citrus trees. It's mainly citrus and olives. We grafted a lot of them into different varieties. And then everywhere more species grew because the soil was exposed to a lot of light, and the reactions from the surrounding, from other farmers, was actually quite interesting because everybody got really worried about the state of the farm and about this diversity, that it could somehow harm my main cultivation. But having in mind that the same people were actually worried about the forest, the burnt forest not growing back in our region, I was like, wait, on the mountain the forest is not growing back, but we really want it there, and in my farm it's growing, but we really feel threatened by it. That somehow doesn't make sense. It means that our current farming system is really going completely against nature, while actually nature has systems that are very resilient and don't need resilient in many different aspects, from their water needs, from pests and diseases. So yeah, it led me on a journey to discover regenerative farming, and I was so privileged to meet other pioneers from across Europe. And so I realized that this is actually a technique that is used in order to regenerate one's farm and one's system. So yeah, I discovered many, I actually discovered how an ecosystem functions through different trainings, which then this knowledge I brought back to my farm. But because I felt it's unfair that I have the privilege to have access to this knowledge, my aim was to share these practices with other farmers in the region, with other farmers in Greece, and so to bring regenerative farming to Greece. This is, then we created some pilot farms all over Greece. We created local networks in different regions. And now it's really interesting to see how more farmers, especially after these difficult years, climate-wise and crop-wise, how many farmers are actually looking in this direction for solutions. Currently, my farm is producing a huge variety of fruits. We produce olive oil, we have limes, lemons, oranges, pomegranates, a huge variety of support species. We experiment a lot, and at the same time, we also host trainings in our farm. And actually, it's one of the easiest ways to inspire people to go in this direction. It's just to share your farm, and then a lot of words are actually not needed anymore. Yeah. So far to me, there's so much I could share, but I will be very happy to give the word to Jero. Thank you.
Thanks, Sheila. And we don't have the same climate here for the moment, so I have to stay inside. So hello to everyone. I'm Jero. I'm a young Belgian farmer. I run the farm with my father, my two other brothers, and my sister-in-law. So it's really a family farm. We're mainly in the small crops, grain production. I will say in a conservation agriculture with some vegetable too. So we have a bit of tillage too, and we produce some flax, some fiber. And I'm kind of born in this system because I'm lucky that my father starts this change nearly, I think, more than 30 years ago. And it was quite an accident during a wet winter like we have this year, that we are not able to go in the fields, and he has to do it otherwise because in spring he didn't have the time to plow and to do it like always, we'll say. And so it really start by something that Wilson nature said us to start like that, and it works. So he said that he can do otherwise. And at the beginning, we see that we have less issue with erosion, mud. I will say too much mud in the village when you have big event of rainfall or thunderstorm. And so we see this, we'll say that the soil is alive, and it is not just a box of 30 centimeters that you put your chemicals, your fertilizer, and you start to grow something for the industry. And so with that, we look more in the cover crop system that we always have on the farm. And but we work harder and harder with cover crops. We start with a single cover crop, and after we had some others like legumes to add some nitrogen, and we put more and more on diversity. And I will say it stay like this for maybe 15 years, but after we try to do more intercropping. So because we saw that diversity is one of the key to produce with less. So in this journey, it was slow change, but we went step by step to decrease the inputs and to replace them by biology. So you have the earth forms, you have the cover crops, and so that's a long process, but we reduce them step by step to be sure that we are staying well in the business too. And more and more we go in this journey, we see that we can cut a lot of inputs and we can still produce good quality, and even we have a better quality of production. And yeah, I will say that I think, I don't know where we can be in 5 years, but I will say that we still have a better production with less, and I think it's one of the key of the regenerative agriculture. And we use the sunlight like the major input on our farm, because we try to collect with the crops, the cover crops, and it's for that we use more now system like intercropping. So we grow a few crops or cover crops and crops in the same time, because we want to collect all the sunlight that we can, because it's the fuel for the soil and the biology. So I think it's a good resume of what we do, and I will give the word to Alfonso.
Hello, I am in the southeast of Spain, and I'm managing also a family farm. It is dryland, a big farm, with more than 1,000 hectares, and I've been here for about 12 years. At the beginning, doing experiments to see what else could work besides monoculture of 2 types of cereals, and trying also with other perennial crops. Because the climate here is quite harsh. We are at a high altitude, so we have also Mediterranean climate, but dry, so an average rainfall of 300 millimeters a year. And monoculture of grains was not working very well, and it was going worse and worse every time. So with a lot of those experiments, we could diversify into many other crops. Now we have a bit more than 20 different crops with many different types of grains, legumes, also many different types of aromatic plants. We have pistachios, almonds, olive trees, vineyard. We also have some cows, and we have some vegetables as well, some other types of fruit trees. And this diversification has helped a lot, together with a lot of different techniques that a lot of these crops and these techniques also to be able to apply them on a large scale. It has been very helpful that we have an academy in the farm, and through a lot of the students that come to do the research and help out with the monitoring, we can see the result of that. So what is, if it's actually working well, what the production is quite easy to see, but a lot of the effects of these techniques are in the soil, the water, and the biodiversity is you need to quantify it, to be able to say that you're actually improving it, and which is the case. And techniques, we've been also applying a combination of different ones, and every year we try to experiment with others to see what can we include in the farm to keep getting the system a bit more complex. So we've been building many swales, which are trenches that follow the contour lines. We've built also many kilometers of hedges, and every year we keep increasing with that. We add compost also to the crops, also play with green manure that we add between our trees as well. And ponds also, we've been some bigger, some smaller, but I think over 100 ponds throughout the farm. So this combination has helped a lot to keep a production, to keep also the improve the farm, and be able to show it that water, soil, and biodiversity. And in years like last year, that we had 70 millimeters of rain in 12 months, and then 300 in 1 month. A lot of the crops didn't work, but because of these diversifications, some others did work very well. So we find some of this combination of things is quite key to be able to be resilient in an environment like this with these changes that we are having. Yeah, so thanks a lot. I pass the word to Anne.
Thanks, Alfonso. Great people to have you here and to listen to the stories of our farmers in Europe. My name is Anne van Leeuwen, and I'm not a next generation farmer, but I'm new in farming. And I grew up with a lot of love for life already from a very young age, and very quickly started to ask questions about how we could turn around the loss of life. That was really something that touched me personally. And it was by seeing an amazing documentary by John D. Liu about the regeneration of the Loess Plateau that I realized that actually, as human beings, we can make a positive impact, and we don't need to only reduce our negative impact, which is what sustainability is currently about. And when we encountered this process of regeneration, we were sure, me and my Spanish partner, Ricardo Canamateo, that we wanted to dedicate the rest of our lives to ecosystem restoration. And in our journey and our pathway to find out how we can actually live from that, we found out that there was such a beautiful thing as regenerative agriculture. So now we are farming in the Netherlands. We have a very small scale farm compared to the previous farmers. So our farm is a really urban farm, you could say, right next to the city. It's 5.5 hectares. We have a very intensive no-dig market garden. And from this garden, we sell 150 different kinds of vegetables, herbs, and small fruits, flowers, to 100 households and 5 restaurants, all within 8 kilometers around the farm. So we direct sell. And then we are regenerating a piece of land that was pretty degraded, monocultural cropland. And we are planting an agroforestry system over 5 hectares. And we have egg mobiles with layers grazing, the holistic plant grazing throughout the whole field. So we move them around and they improve the soil while they lay lovely and tasty eggs. So that gives you an image of our farm, but we are also a foundation because we found out that we had to travel to the south of Spain and to the middle of Sweden to get enough knowledge to start farming and to write a proper business plan with which we could actually farm. So one of the things we're also doing, and it's one of our core businesses with the foundation, is to really train other farmers, because we see that there are a lot of young people actually standing up because they want to farm. So those are the people who we help and coach. And we also see that a lot of people of new generation farmers also want to farm more regeneratively in the Netherlands. So that's a beautiful movement is being built. We're also connecting our farm to a national movement. We have now We Are the Regeneration movement with all the Dutch pioneers in there, making them visible, also on a policy and political level, and working a lot with lovely organizations like Lenteland that are actually buying new farms to ensure that we'll end up with a lot more farmers. So that gives you a little bit an impression of our farm. And I would love to invite William, my colleague William, to tell more about his farm.
Thank you, Anna. Hello, I'm William Houston. I'm honoured to be here, and I'm going to give you a brief account of how a Scottish farmer has arrived at this point, as it's very much the story of farming over the last decades and why I've become so committed to regenerating farming. I've been based here on the family farm in Glenisla, Scotland, all of my life, although I've worked in farms, in food businesses, and as a consultant around the world, in jobs ranging from managing 100,000 hectare ranches in Venezuela to managing a 500 hectare soft fruit cooperative in Scotland. At home, I now graze cattle and sheep for my brother, who raises cattle, sheep, and deer in the mountains of Glenshee with his son. I used to breed sheep and cattle and grow barley here. I stopped farming full-time 23 years ago when I started to work as a consultant as well. For the last 6 years, I've been managing my land holistically with no artificial inputs. We graze more sheep every year. The bird and wildlife is increasing and the soil is improving dramatically. For the last 4 years, I've been an accredited professional educator with the Savory Institute, helping other land stewards manage their land regeneratively. I stopped farming full-time in 2000 when I became unfulfilled as a farmer. I studied for an MBA in International Agribusiness and Food at the Royal Agricultural College in England and Utah State University in the USA, with a group from all around the world. It was at the time Eric Schlosser's book, Fast Food Nation, came out. Al Gore was vice president of the USA, and I started to become more aware of the links between agriculture, food, health, climate, and the environment. I was then employed to help farmers and others in Cumbria recover and regenerate their businesses after the foot and mouth disease outbreak in 2001. The post was part funded by one of Prince, now King Charles's charities, and he visited often, very interested in the people, businesses, ecosystems, and landscape of the Lake District National Park, and how we could manage them all for the benefit of all. If you've heard his speech today, you'll understand what an influence he was on my thinking. I was then employed to manage a soft fruit co-op, growing soft fruit efficiently and profitably on an industrial scale, selling directly to the major UK supermarkets. This was a new environment for me, and although we doubled the output in the 8 years I was there, I was back to being unsettled in a UK farming environment. I'd learned a lot about horticulture and crop farming, as most of the farmers also had large arable farms. They were the only ones who could afford the massive investment needed to grow fruit this way, and even they were struggling to remain profitable and happy as UK supermarkets drove for ever cheaper food, matched only by rising input costs. I was also very aware in the difference in taste between the intensively grown farm fruit and that from my own garden. I left and trained with the Savory Institute. I'd been watching them develop since my time in the States and gained a new holistic perspective on how people, nature, and business can work together for the good of all, as well as joining a close-knit community of regenerating farmers around the world. My brother and many others are aware of the need for change, but they've become over-reliant on subsidies and do not want to make major changes without understanding future funding streams. We still do not have full details of the Scottish support schemes post-Brexit, which will start in 2026. It takes 5 years to change or see the result of changes on a hill farm in Scotland. I hope Scottish and other farmers will be helped to transition to genuinely regenerate their land, businesses, and people through context-specific outcome-based rewards, but fear they may only be encouraged to carry out a few generic regenerative practices, which may or may not achieve anything other than continuing profits for the agri-support industries. Everywhere I look, I see the effect our farming practices are having on our land, biodiversity, and people, from the massive loss of soil in the recent floods in Scotland and decreasing numbers of farmland birds, to the increasing awareness of the poor mental health of farmers and their employees. I was honoured to be at the first Climate Farmers Conference in Germany 2 years ago and meet so many optimistic, successful, regenerating farmers. I'm delighted to see this group develop to become EARA so we can support one another, put our case to customers and governments, and ensure an abundant future for our families and neighbours in nature. We've made incredible progress with our operations team of Simon and Natasha in the 3 weeks since we met in producing this white paper, and I look forward to doing what I can do to put this into practice. I'd now like to hand over to Anna.
Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. I'm very happy to be here. My name is Anna Juhas, and I'm a farmer in Hungary. I farm here with my partner, David, and we started our farming journey about 8 years ago on a small self-sustaining farm. I actually grew up a city girl, 100% without any interest in farming, but through my relationship with him, I developed a love for this kind of lifestyle, such a love that I would never, ever exchange this life for any other. We farmed on our small self-sustaining farm for about 4 years, and we hit a milestone at one point when we bumped into Ellen Savory's TED Talk. And that gave us kind of a paradigm shift, because we realized just the two of us farming there in this beautiful paradise of an eco bubble is not really going to affect the whole world. And the whole world is going in a very, very bad direction farming wise. So we decided to leave behind that tiny little farm and move to a larger scale one, the one that we are currently working on, about 70 hectares of pastures mostly. And now we do holistic management. We raise pasture-raised poultry and beef. And another very interesting thing that happened while I was discovering and having my journey in the regenerative farming, on the road of regenerative farming, is that I also realized how very strongly interlinked the beneficial farming practices are to a lot of folklore and tradition that I actually brought with myself as a person who is very deeply connected with their roots. And that makes it even more magical to me. I feel like we have a key in our hands. We have the solution to change the course of history, and we should really, really do something about it. And I'm not going to tell any more anecdotes about myself. I think I'm going to give the word back to Anne and Alfonso, because they're going to kindly tell us about the what, how, and why, and why, how, who, how, what, and how of EARA. My apologies.
Thanks, Anna. Yeah, I will tell a little bit more about the why and the who, and Alfonso will take over after me. So the why and the who, well, William already referred to it from his own experience, but ecologically, economically, and also socially, farmers and our food systems are under stress. Ecologically, because the soils are degrading very fast, we're losing a lot of soil health very fast, and very correlated with that, we have a big water issue. The water retentions of our soils are being lost, but also local water cycles are being disturbed by land degradation, which is a huge problem, and also in Europe becomes more and more of a huge issue. Life above ground is, of course, also very, enormously affected by the way and how we manage land. In Europe, the case is already that 1 in 5 plants and animals are now under threat of extinction, which is huge. And this land degradation is, of course, also feeding a climate crisis, because the carbon that is lost from the soil and ends up in the atmosphere, water particles that were supposed to be in the soil ends up in the atmosphere, and you get this sort of negative feedback loop that feeds even more into this degradation. So, and then above that, all of this, also conventional food system and conventional farming is still a huge player in the emissions, large-scale emissions of greenhouse gases. So, and economically, of course, this also affects, has a lot of economic outputs. The extreme droughts, the rain, the hail affects especially also farmers, because they were already struggling very often economically, like William was already clarifying us the situation in Scotland, for example. So the whole system starts to become very fragile. and socially also for the communities in Europe. So you can see that there's more and more, because also of this extreme weather events, you see that food insecurity becomes more of an issue, but also loss of nutrition over time. If the soil degrades, the food becomes less nutritious. And the sad thing is in this, we see is also that farmers are now seen as the problem of all of these issues. Well, actually, with EARA, we see that farmers could be the solution to many of these problems if they farm regeneratively. And there we see there's a lot of potential for improvement to let us also do what we can do as a regenerative farming community, because currently we see very unfocused, overly bureaucratic and short-term policy that makes it very difficult for all farmers already to work, and especially to farm regeneratively, because it just doesn't fit into the current boxes. So how can we change this around, and how can we work towards a bureaucracy that's actually efficient, context-specific and trust-based, based on the trust that farmers can be stewards of the land and can actually make a big positive difference. So that's why we came together also with 50 regenerative farmers in Germany just a few weeks ago. We had this amazing group of both old and young farmers. We had very small scale farmers from 2 hectares up to very large scale, 4,500 hectares, from the east till the west of Europe, from the very north Finland to the south of Spain. We have cattle farmers, vegetable farmers, arable farmers, farmers that work with really large scale machinery and infrastructure, and farmers that work with their hands. So it's this beautiful diversity of people that are all focusing and uniting under this flag of EARA with the same shared mission and the same shared regenerative principles. I hope you can all still hear me, because I don't see myself anymore in the image, but I hope you got what I just said. And I would love then to give the word to Alfonso to tell a little bit more about the how and the what of EARA.
Thank you, Anne. Yeah, so how and what? Basically, what we want to do, our desire with EARA is community building and political advocacy work. Community building, well, an example of that was those days that we spent all together in Germany. I think it was quite amazing, all the knowledge we shared in quite a short amount of time, and also the communications we are having with each other. I think that is invaluable, and that is only going to get stronger, I believe, every day. And also the political advocacy work, well, we thought that was also very important, since, well, we wanted to create this organization to be independent, be farmer-led, coordinated, and yeah, that really represents the movement of regenerative agriculture at a European level. And yeah, through this, we really want to promote the transformation of the agri-food ecosystems, and yeah, make sure that people that do this and that call themselves regenerative farmers or claim to be doing regenerative agriculture, that they are really improving and showing the ecologic, economic, and social regeneration. Also, another thing we realize is that indeed there is sometimes people talking for regenerative farmers, but that didn't really talk with regenerative farmers before. So what better than us to talk for ourselves? Yeah, more in detail of this, William will talk about the white paper, and he can explain also yeah, more things about this. Thank you very much. And yeah, I think yeah, yes. William and Simon, I pass the word to.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm going to give you a brief introduction to the white paper, which will be published on our website as soon as this is over. We've put this together in response to escalating and converging crises And this farmer-led white paper, the European Alliance for Regenerative Agriculture, presents a visionary perspective to guide the regeneration of agri-food ecosystems and beyond. It's not an easy paper to read, but we make no apologies for that. It's full of knowledge and proposals from a perspective that needs to become part of the discussion. It's been carefully created by a group of farmers who are already restoring biodiversity to their land while running profitable businesses in regenerating communities. They feel they are part of the landscape with the obligations this brings, unlike many who believe that the landscape belongs to them with the rights that this brings. Or, in King Charles's words earlier today, we belong to the earth. It does not belong to us. I'll take you through the table of contents with a few of my own comments. Our vision is for regenerative agri-food ecosystems that are farmer and people-centric, outcome-focused and context-specific, striving for social, ecological, and economic health. We want to play our part in helping governance systems become positive agents, fostering economic, social, and ecological prosperity and health by positively co-stewarding the regeneration of our agri-food system, making use of the diversity of experience and knowledge of our members. The dynamics of current agri-food systems. They're broken. They might be regenerating profits for the intermediaries, but they're not serving the farmers or those people who eat food and are damaging our planet's health. There's fading ecological resilience. We don't really understand the soil and wider ecosystem processes and what we're doing to them as we're changing so much all at the same time. But we can see we're losing soil, insects, fungi, and much other life. Many of these have effects on plants and animals we don't yet understand. Somewhere in amongst all this, it's leading to fragile agronomic performance. Yields are dropping, despite increasing inputs, better knowledge of specific species, both farmed and wild, but not how they interact. Poor food and changing environment is leading to food and health crises with hidden costs because of this silo thinking, leading to little resilience to unexpected events where food crises are often created by market traders overreacting or seeing opportunity for profit. Worldviews of food production and how we teach about food and life are influenced by marketing and corporate short-term interests rather than accepted scientific-based knowledge. Agri-food governance is in disarray. The current mode of agri-food system governance is top-down, reductionist, undemocratic, and profit-focused, perpetuating the increasing social and economic inequality, as well as the degradation of our ecosystems. It's not just climate that's in chaos, but everything is interlinked. So we've come up with some defining principles. They're on a different level from the regenerative practices being promoted, but they need to be to develop the understanding we need to allow nature to provide us with healthy food. Simon is going to present them in more detail next, so I'll just say what they are. Regeneration is a life-enhancing process rather than a permanent state. Regeneration is outcome-orientated regarding social, ecological, and economic health at the same time. Regeneration is context-specific. What regenerates in the north of Norway probably won't do much good in the south of Italy. And regeneration is systemic. It's no good regenerating farming if the greater food system doesn't support farmers. We then give an example of how these principles can be used to evaluate the use of synthetic pesticides, one of the most divisive issues in food production at the moment. We give keystones to steward the transition, using the principles of regeneration above. The principles can be used to guide this transformation. We need to embrace system change. The whole agri-food system must change, or farmers' efforts will be worthless. We need pluralism in governance and knowledge systems. Governance systems in policymaking, research, and education must become regenerative and inclusive. And we must move towards an outcome-based agricultural policy that rewards ecosystem health, context-specific payments for agroecological performance, and be complemented by payments for context-specific practices. We go into the potentials of regenerative ecosystem agricultural governance. This outcome-orientated policy could be the starting point for wider change throughout policymaking and governance to benefit all life and business on our planet. Our theory of change is gone into in some detail and explained. We need to mirror nature. A core component of our theory of change of farmers in the regenerative agriculture movement is to restore the diversity, vitality, and balance of bacteria and fungi in the soils. Fungi bind elements of soil ecosystems together and enable living soils to function as a cohesive whole. Similarly, our farmers see themselves as the inoculants of the missing fungi in our society and governance, bringing people and ecologies closer together. This is the approach we want to take to everything, and we think it could help all of society and nature restore and regenerate. I'm now going to hand over to Simon.
Thank you so much, William. And thanks everyone here for staying with us, although we have a panel with almost no one being here, but I think that's also why we are different, because we want the farmers to speak for themselves, just like Alonso said. And I'll run you very quickly through this, because this is then also, you know, we have here at COP right now actually, and tomorrow and all days afterwards, we have big agricultural companies making big claims about regenerative agriculture, now even making claims about agroecology. And we think this is not leading us to the One Health that we all seek for. And we also believe that many are trying to define regenerative agriculture. Actually, I can tell you that CropLife International will tomorrow publish a definition of regenerative agriculture. And we think very much, you know, if I may be allowed to use the words of Oscar Wilde, who said, you know, all definition is restriction. And what we are trying to do as regenerative farmers is actually steward for emergence, steward for the biosphere to do what it does best, to become conducive to life. So we really want to not define regenerative agriculture, but give the defining principles which decision makers or also farmers can use for stewarding systems as living wholes towards regeneration. And this is really here how they interact. Our friend William read them out. You see them here again, and I think really they can interact with all scales and spheres, and you can steward with them a farm, you can steward your own inner development, but even also communities, ecosystem, and we hope also that they are taking up for corporations who might really want to change. Actually, now it's getting interesting. People going in. No, because corporations can truly want to change and should change those who are today have a negative impact. And we can also steward them with the experts of regeneration. And if we go on our second to last slide, please, we have the key messages out of the white paper, which we want to give decision makers here at COP, but in all governance and private sector making circles. So first, that their thinking is guided by living systems. Second, that the transition to regenerative food system must be land steward and farmer, indigenous people, smallholder guided. It must acknowledge that claims on regenerative agriculture must go far beyond the surface. We have claims like CropLife. We will see what they define and if it's systemic, holistic, outcome-oriented, and if they really are taking into account social and economic health, a part of ecological health. And then that we need to transform agricultural subsidies. Here at COP, we always talk about private-public partnerships. We need more private financing. We need more private financing. Actually, we as humanity finance every year 817 billion. I ask you, look around at COP. There's no one talking about a private finance funds of 817 billion a year. But we are already paying that as society to farmers, but for farmers not to steward forward regeneration, but for farmers to increase GDP by buying more products and getting dependent. And then, of course, that the land access of those farmers, of peasant farmers, indigenous people, regenerative farmers, that their rights are upheld and that their long-term land access is guaranteed so they can really reconnect with the land and build the regeneration. And then a very important topic, we just have it in the other sphere also a session on this, is that stranded assets, as well as these huge market and power asymmetries, like for example in Germany we now have an oligopoly in food retail, like William was pointing out. Those are all elements of our larger system that are keeping farmers from farming for regeneration or are burdening those farmers who are already trying to farm for regeneration to do so faster, better, more easily. And then lastly, that agri-food systems are degrown and regrown into bioregions. So we can actually have regenerative agri-food ecosystem. And that, if we go to the last slide, would it be from our side. Thank you so much. Please go to our website, have a look at the white paper in total, and upcoming we will be talking, because today you heard the farmers talking about outcome-focused agricultural policy. Here at COP you will hear a lot of people talk about paying for ecosystem services, carbon markets, biodiversity credits, and how can we do that actually with the public money that we as taxpayers already give through agricultural policy to the farmers. And this is something we are doing a study on right now, because of course the pioneers of regenerative agriculture would know best how to give funds to other farmers, how to help them for regeneration. Yeah, and our most genuine gratitude to everyone, also our friends here enabling the session. And maybe those here have some questions for the farmers. If so, please be invited to speak up. Yes.
I was wondering if there's some downsides to regenerative farming.
Yeah, let's put that, if the question is if there's, yes, if there are some downsides to regenerative agriculture you could think of, and also she's asking if you could sum up the benefits again, please. So, if anyone wants to speak, please just unmute yourself and go for it. Can you hear us? William.
To me, the downside or the difficulty is the transition. To move from your soil and your business dependent on external inputs to making full value of the energy from the sun and what nature can bring you. That is a difficult process to go through. The upside is better food, much more rewarding relationship with your land, with your animals, with your customers, and with nature. And for the good, and for society, we have better food. We have a more integrated food system where each player in the system understands each other's role and appreciates it much more. I'll stop at that.
Thank you, William. Is that okay? Wonderful.
Can I ask something else? Like, is it something that on a large scale they think would work for humanity?
Yes, so we can. Yes. Yeah, if I may be allowed to answer also first, I think we will be failing as we are doing already now. I mean, we have one person every 7 seconds dying of hunger. So we are already drastically failing in feeding the world. The question is if if we can scale regenerative agriculture and if we can feed the world with regenerative agriculture.
I will say that it's not an issue because we are more resilient, we have more production, and we don't have a loss of productivity. We just, anyway, when you see the weather like this year in Belgium, it was hard to harvest every crop because we have long period of rain for at each time few weeks or few months. So more crops you have, more diversity you have, more you have to sell and to feed to the people. And I think that we need to. It's not an issue to be big. It will be sometime easier because it's easier to move everything in your farm, in your company if you have this leverage because you are bigger farm and they have I think it's not an issue of size. You can do it whatever your size is, and you have more resilience. So I think in the future it's maybe the only solution. And I see most issue in the conventional farming than the others way of thinking, and it's just a change of mindset to start this process and to understand biology and to be more resilient. So, yeah.
Thank you, Jero. Any other questions? Then I would say thank you to everyone online. Thank you to everyone on the panel telling us about your stories and EARA's way. Thank you for everyone here. And we can close the session.